Eternal Wave Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here on another episode of the Eternal Wave Podcast. Today, joining us, we have Eclipse, the Warden of Paraiso. To my right, we have JadeShado, the owner of the Covendom of Estrellas. And then we have EmberHamster, the owner of Crimson Tide Brewery.
Hello.
So today, we're going to be talking about Artaine and what it was like for all you guys to be in Artaine, in the high government, before and after. So,
Absolutely.
if you guys just want to introduce yourselves a little bit and what you guys did in Artaine. Jade, you want to start?
Yeah. So my name's Jade. I currently lead the province of Estrellas within Maravilla, which at one point was the province of Estrellas within this country of Artaine. I was the recruitment minister for Artaine, and it was one of my jobs to essentially recruit people to the country. But my other job was as one of the main oligarchs, so to speak, of the country. We had a council of oligarchs that ran the country together, and we all were supposed to have equal power. And so the day-to-day was basically just us trying to, meet up and come up with different things that we should do for the country. But with 9 different people or so running the country, things definitely got a little bit dicey. So we'll see here in the future with this conversation where that went. I want to hear what Eclipse has to say first before we dive into that.
All right, Eclipse, you want to take it away now?
All right.
A little bit
Hello.
about
My
yourself.
name is Eclipse. In Artaine, I was the main diplomacy guy. I was his right-hand man, talking with other nations around us, getting good information and getting everything and relaying it back to him. Currently, I am the warden and leader of Paraiso and the secretary of recruitment. Thank you.
Fuck with that.
Though Ember can explain what they did in Artaine as well.
So I originally started in Artaine as a normal citizen. However, early in Artaine, there was a man named Professional Idiot who stepped down from his position of Minister of Infrastructure. I applied for the position and received that position. From that point, I was the Minister of Infrastructure. I was almost ousted once. And then eventually, when everything ended, I became a owner of a town in Maravilla.
Yeah.
Love that. We love to hear that. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is Dragotha, the predecessor to Artaine.
Yes.
Yes.
So, from my perspective, I knew Saturn, and I was previously scammed by Willie the Brit. So I kind of knew him a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I don't fuck with these guys. So, Blake did a lot of the work for collapsing Dragotha, but I was also there fucking with them. I was talking to all the people. So,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that you guys were, a part of it until, after we collapsed them and we vassalized Artaine.
Yeah.
Well, if we want, I can go over a little bit of a brief history of Dragotha first, and then afterwards Eclipse can fill in anything that I may have missed or that, everything else. So in that case, Dragotha started out technically before Abex even, was available. It started out in the Discords and everything else that was going on. We were, coming up with the idea, and Willie the Brit, who I had previously worked with I worked with him in different mafia capacities. I was in mafias in Rathmere, and these mafias were actually state-sponsored, but that's a story for another time. But this mafia that I worked in, I came into contact with Willie the Brit, who was a notorious scam artist, and that's what got him this seat in the mafia. But as soon as we found out that Abex was opening, he started this campaign to recruit as many people as possible to this new country that he had created. And he promised a bunch of people a bunch of things. He promised Saturn, second in command. He promised all these different people. He was recruiting people who were known to be regularly banned and other stuff like that. But at the time, I didn't know this. But for me, he just told me that if I came with him, I could have a province and land, and that I would be able to, do some things. So I decided to join him. I grabbed Ember. I grabbed our now counselor, a person named Gothic Engine. Great person. And from there, we decided to start, building. And so when Abex opened up and we all joined the world for the first day, we started setting up claims. I know Eclipse had one of the earliest claims ever set up on the continent, and then I have still the oldest port in all of the world, at least the oldest named port in all of the world, and we just started setting things up. But from our perspective, very quickly, and this is probably right around the time, Sub, when you got in contact with them and started trying to collapse them. We found out within the first 5 days, after we had already made our claims, started building, all this other stuff, we found out within the first 5 days that Dragatha was going to have to abandon the continent. And Willie basically just messaged everyone and said, all right, guys, delete your claims and leave. Like, we got to get out of here. And a bunch of us didn't want to do that. And so a day or two before this happened, a player by the name of Psycho, who was later the king of Artaine, he approached me and he decided to ask me whether or not I would support him in a bid against Willie, because people were already growing discontent with Willie's leadership from the beginning. He was really not a very solid leader. He wasn't doing a lot for his people. He was promising things and just not delivering. And this was a regular problem. So that being said, we decided to, back Psycho and start a rebellion against Willie. The day that we were supposed to announce the rebellion is the day that we got the announcement from Blake and the Gertek Horde that Dragatha was supposed to be kicked off of the continent. And we also got a message from Willie that says, basically, yeah, delete your claims, pack up your shit, you gotta go. So we did that. We deleted our claim. Well, some people deleted their claims, packed up their shit, and started to go. But we decided, no, we want to keep our claims. We want to actually stay here. So we decided to enact our rebellion at the exact same time. And we told Willie, no, we're not deleting our claims. We're going to form a new country called Artaine, and we're going to try to win our independence here and keep the lands that you guys are letting go. And so very quickly we announced that we are a country. And I remember that I know some people over in Gertek, namely I know you, Subterra, and I know a couple other people. Yeah. I've been in vague contact with Blake before. And so I decided to try and reach out and see if we can talk to them. I tell Psycho, I tell the others like Danish guy, Eclipse, I tell them, hey, I'm going to try to reach out to Gertek and see if we can negotiate something. Because from what we had heard, at least the rumors that we had heard floating around, the Adramis Coalition, or whatever it was called at the time, like there was something that was supposed to unite the continent or whatever that everyone was working under. And that coalition, we had heard, would not see us as a legitimate country. They wouldn't let us in as Artaine, like as our own self. So we sought legitimacy through Gertek. And Blake, the then leader of Gertek, was actually very clever in this kind of thing. It was rather interesting. So when I reached out to him and talked to him, and we finally got the group chat with all of the Artainian leaders, Blake basically said, you guys are all just a bunch of rebels waving pitchforks around right now. And you're not going to be legitimate in the eyes of the government, which confirmed our fears at the time. But if you guys become our autonomous vassal, we'll let you guys be, and you guys can kind of do whatever you want. And so we negotiated a vassalship through the thing. Yeah, and thus the autonomous vassal of Artaine was born underneath the Gertek Horde's banner at the time. Anything else that I missed, Eclipse, that you want to add in there?
I can fill some stuff in, and before I get too much into it, I can basically briefly summarize how I first ended up in Dragotha. Basically, myself, the Danish guy, and Tomats came. We were trying to look for another nation to join because after Bathnir ended, we were trying to find a nation to join, and we ended up just scrolling, and then we ended up finding Dragotha. So we decided to join. I had talked with Willie, and we had managed to get provinces in. I was able to be the leader of Lactopolis, and with the Danish guy, and Tomats was able to make Uzeni a little bit to the north of the claim, and we were just province governors in Dragotha and just normal government. And then I had talked to Psycho because we had a squatter near where we were. Psycho was the minister of military in Willie's government. So I had talked to him to see if I could get a good claim on stuff and make sure I can get rid of the squatter. And I ended up getting rid of them. But I then talked with Psycho and got to know him more and meet him. And then with the whole thing, you explained most of it when he had talked to you about talking to stand up against Willie. He had then talked to me, and I had relayed the message to the Danish guy, and Tomats, and we all came together and went into a group chat, and we all discussed, and we ended up not wanting to leave and standing up and staying on the continent. But at that point, it was already in ruins. It was really a mess the first day. Since I was his diplomacy, I had to talk with like every other nation to form legitimacy. And as you said, we didn't get legitimacy from many people. And I tried to get us in the coalition, the whole thing that was going on. And I couldn't get us in as we were not, uh, quote unquote, like a real nation. So
Yeah.
then I talked with more with Blake and whatnot, and he was all like vassalizing and you and sub and then I relayed the message to Psycho, and Psycho basically shit himself. He was terrified to know the fact that like you, Gertek was not considering like was basically considering our land as their land, and basically not really but threatened war. So I basically told Psycho, like, we got to listen to them. Don't make any stupid decisions. And I talked to him, and then he had messaged me, and he's like, what else can you get? And then Jade had told me that we can become a vassal from them. And I told Psycho, and Psycho said, take the deal. So then we became a vassal of Gertek, and the Artaine, the kingdom of Artaine became the first vassal of the Gertek horde.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. I don't know. I found you guys really interesting. Sorry, what was that?
I joined into this knowing Willie was a scammer because he literally scammed me in Rathnir like a month before. But I was like, you know what? Maybe he'll run a government better.
That's true, but also Ember and I were also under the impression that Gertek or Kartek, the people that we previously knew from the last world, we were under the impression that they were not going to be coming back, and that's why we threw our lot in with Willie, because he promised us the ability to have land.
I wanted a town, and he was willing to allow us to make a town, and I said, you know what? No matter what happens, at least I have a town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Sub, before we go into the next part of the history?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. We weren't supposed to come back, you know. Like at the end of the server, everyone in Kartek was like, "Yo, like let's just kill the nation now." Like we had a good run for like 4.5 years. Like you know what I mean? It was a good community, and we were like peaking. Honestly, at the end of the server, we were fucking on top. So we were like, let's just go down in infamy. And then Blake got
That makes
unbanned,
sense.
and then he just made a Discord server. He was like, "Oh, guys, everyone enjoyed the Kartek Empire. We're coming back," without talking to anyone first. So we were kind of like, bruh. And originally, like, I did not want to be a part of it. I was like, nah, like, I'm alright. Like, I already quit Stoneworks, blah, blah, blah. And General, like, was in my goddamn DMs, like, sub, like, it's gonna be really bad. And me and General, like, we're just worried about, like, the Kartek's reputation and stuff just going down the shitter after, like, we just spent, like, the last couple years, like, working our asses off to, like, pretty much make that shit strong. So, that's why I came back. But I wasn't expecting like any of this. But that's why it's like you. Like I remember Ember like DM'd me, or it was you, or one of you guys DM'd me. You
No,
guys
I
were like,
DM'd you.
yeah.
I
You
also
DM'd
did,
me,
yeah.
and you guys were like, oh, like you guys gonna be in a new world, like you know, like we're looking for land, blah blah blah. And I was like, no. Straight up, like no, sorry. And then I saw you guys were right next to me. I was like, damn, I feel like an asshole. I mean, cause I don't know, I didn't know at the time. Like literally like a week later, Blake was like, everyone joined, so.
You know, honestly, I
Yeah.
was just happy that I knew someone from Rathnir because like I'd left knowing no one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I don't know.
But yeah, from there, if we want to, talk about the rest or the next part of the history, because there's some interesting stuff that goes on here.
Oh, yeah.
So first I'll talk a little bit about my province of Australis and what we endured in the immediate aftermath of becoming a Gertek vassal. So Australis was originally the smallest province of Artaine. It was just in the little corner of the world. And we were okay with that. We didn't want a lot of land. We just wanted to be our little province of witches over there in the corner. And it was, it was pretty fun for us. But as things, went and as time went and as it became, in the actual government of Artaine and everything else, things started turning a little bit south because Willie and the rest of Dragatha, who were right over on the neighboring subcontinent of Cathalet, they wanted revenge. They did not like that we accepted a Gertek vassalship. And so, because of their dislike of our vassalship, Willie started sending people over to harass pretty much all of Artaine, but mostly me, because I was at the time one of the more active provinces, and Lactopolis was a little bit better protected, which is now known as Esperanza. But we started getting raided constantly by a bunch of different people.
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah,
and
it was really bad.
At first, we didn't realize who it was. We didn't realize that it was just Dragatha until we started like tracing them back and realizing that they were alt accounts of people that were in the current Dragatha claim. Which, by the way, Dragatha at this point, they were reduced to a single claim within another country over on another continent.
Yeah.
So
It
all
was
the land that
where-
they promised, all the land that they promised to different people, done. It was not happening anymore. So Dragatha basically had fallen.
I mean, they still exist. They're a province in
They're on the
Saria.
charts, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a province,
Yeah.
but they don't have their own, subdivisions and land like they were going to.
Yeah,
They were supposed to
no.
be a whole country, and
Yeah,
they
definitely.
completely failed. But
Definitely.
that being said, so they started sending a bunch of people over to raid us, and then that started becoming apparent when they stopped sending like alts and they just started coming themselves and started raiding us. And so my province, my city of Port Estelle, we built a wall around the city to help prevent raids, which actually was pretty effective for a time. But they kept griefing, they kept raiding, like whatever, until eventually, essentially, we started having other stuff, and Gertek started making more alliances. We essentially started becoming one of the more powerful players in Adrama. And at that time, Dragatha basically just stopped, fucking with us. They didn't care anymore. They just abandoned it. But we also fought them off whenever we could. Whenever they had a raid, we'd fight them, we'd shoot at them, whatever else. But it was nothing more than skirmishes. It was never like a full war or anything. And then they just started leaving us alone. So then after that, they left us alone. And the real fun started beginning with Gertek internal politics and Artaine internal politics, because stuff started getting really out of hand here. First, it started with us and our culture war with Las Vidas. That was a
God,
fun
yeah.
thing.
Oh, that was
So
fun.
do you want to start talking about that, Eclipse, and I'll fill in?
So basically, literally not even maybe the second or third day of us forming, and we were already a vassal ship because we became a vassal like the first day of our formation. The second or third day, I woke up and then I got a bunch of DMs and I checked them, and Psycho had sold off what now is Stonehaven Keep without telling anyone. And I think he sold it for like 50K. Like, it was stupid cheap for how much they got it for. It was a lot of land, and they got like it was almost like double the size of what Las Vidas was. And we gave that to them, and like $50,000. And I was pissed. I messaged Psycho. I'm like, dude, you got to get the land back. You didn't message me, because that was where Tomatz's province was. And he didn't message, and he said, "Oh, I can't do anything about it anymore. Sorry."
That's
and
right.
I tried talking with Mox. Yes, you may.
Oh, if I may interject real fast, this is also where the problems with Psycho really started beginning, because Artaine was supposed to be an oligarchy where we, all made individual decisions, and Psycho, whenever the rest of us were not online, he would just start making decisions without the rest of us. And because he was the quote unquote king, he just claimed that his word meant more than ours. So he would make deals without authority. Anyway, continue with this.
Yeah. But basically, I then messaged and got into ties with the diplomacy with Moxberry, the current leader of Las Vidas at the time. And he was like, I'm not selling the land back. It's mine. We made the deal, and I couldn't do anything because it was Psycho's contract. I looked at the contract. It was his signature, and I couldn't undo that. And he didn't really want to try either. So from the start, I was very angered by Psycho. And then I had to deal with the consequences of moving provinces and border claims. It was a hot mess. But when we figured it out, then Psycho messaged me and like, dude, we gotta like, Las Vidas is the enemy. And he then sent me and went on a rant about chopping down all the trees near the border that we had. We chopped.
He was a heavy
chopped them all down.
industrialist.
He built ugly deep slate walls all around their border and made like oil and gunk. He basically made the border look like disgusting and terrible for Las Vidas, and he made it look bad on purpose, but also give it as a factory. Like it was a building, but it was very not really nice looking. It was very ugly, and
he
it
made
was
the
just
lore.
terrible.
He was making the lore that we were like an industrial like mechanical
nation.
industrial like
Powerhouse.
revolution type of nation.
Yeah.
And that we were supposed to pollute everything. And Las Vidas was our direct neighbor, and they were all about coexisting with the environment and living, you know, green and all that other stuff. And Psycho had like a personal vendetta against this. The rest of us thought it was like a funny little joke and just wanted to kind of like, I don't know, just kind of play around with it, have like a fun little rivalry, like just in everything else. But Psycho never made that clear to Las Vidas, and instead was just angry about it almost at all times. And Las Vidas never understood that it was supposed to be a friendly culture war, at least amongst a lot of us.
Yeah. Also,
And
I would say in general, Psycho was just mad about Las Vegas existing. Like, whenever anyone mentioned them, he would get upset, like, actively. He would, like, start yelling and crashing out over it. And
that's true.
It was very immature of a leader.
Anyway, continue, Eclipse.
Yeah, all good. Just to finish it up, basically, was Mox basically angrily DM'd me and was like, dude, fix this now. In all caps, and he sent the screenshot of what Psycho had done to the border, and it was very bad. And I told Psycho, like, dude, I just got decent diplomacy with Las Vegas. Do not make this worse on me. Get rid of it. He didn't get rid of it. He didn't listen to me. And I told Mox, like, I cannot get into his head to get him to change it. And he didn't fix it. And Mox was like, okay, I'll talk with him about it. And I don't know if they discussed it or whatnot. It was never clear to me. No DMs were shared from there. That was the last thing we really had discussions with Las Vidas. From there, that was like it.
Damn.
Yeah, they cut off discussions with us after that, and then we had to turn to you, Subterra, to rely on like diplomacy from Gertek to try and help. And at the time, I remember you were very interested in the politics of Artaine and like trying to figure out what was going on. And because you were de facto leading Gertek at the time, because Blake had essentially stepped away for a while.
Yeah.
I remember you trying to talk to Mox a lot about the whole situation, and you know, just trying to figure out everything about it. And I just remember like every day, like you giving me updates, like, yeah, I'm trying to talk to him. I'm trying to figure this out. We'll figure out the situation. And at the end of the day, I can't even remember exactly how you did it. I just remember that you did. Like, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Me and Mox were like, we were boys, you know what I mean? I was always cool with him from the start. There was never any like bad blood necessarily. And the only time like, I can't even say that. Yeah, no, me and Mox never got into any arguments. Only people I was ever beefing with was Voithantis, his dumbass. But that's a whole nother fucking topic for another episode. I don't know. I feel like the sale of Stonehaven Keep just super reminds me of Encantada, because Blake literally did the exact same thing Psycho did. He literally just sold like a bunch of fucking land for like dirt cheap. I think they paid $60,000 for all of Encantada.
Wow.
And Blake didn't tell anyone. He just sold it. And everyone was like, "What the fuck?" But Blake didn't really care. Like, he just needed like cash, and he was too lazy to grind. So he was like, "Whatever, I'm just gonna sell this." So, you know, it's
disrespectful.
Yeah, no, and it was disrespectful. Everyone was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
That was the first thing with Blake, you know. So that was just at the time when shit was just, people were starting to show like their fucking true intentions, you know. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Only reason why I was so like, I wouldn't say involved, but I was involved with Artaine, but I was so interested in Artaine was just because I felt like all the other politics on the continent at the time was just so boring and bland. Like, Gertek politics was nothing. It was just doing what Blake says. And then everyone else was cooked. You know, we weren't talking to Quintos at the time. I don't even think they had that much of like a government structure. And you guys did. So I was like, let me go fuck with these guys. You know what I mean? Let's get something out of this.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
You told us an oligarchy wouldn't work. We didn't listen.
Yeah, but you wanted to see how it ended anyway.
Did not listen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's never been an oligarchy that ever worked on this server.
Yeah, no. Definitely. But, you know, I'm surprised that the democracy we're in now, you know, is working, or has worked as well as it has for as long, Yeah,
I'm really surprised, but it's been going great. Yeah.
But from there, if you want to talk a little bit more about from there, the collapse, and well, actually, no, hold on. there's something I think we need to backtrack and talk about for just a little bit of lore for Artaine and some of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes at the time that now we think is hilarious, but at the time we were panicking about.
What?
And that
100%.
is the banning of Psycho and his subsequent coronation while he was
I
banned.
can talk a lot about this because I was the main one struggling with this.
Oh yeah, so let me start, and then you can definitely finish this out because you have a lot of information about this as well. But we both have like different sides of it.
Yeah.
So right after Artaine formed, and we were like starting everything, you know, getting the ball rolling, Psycho gets banned for X-raying very, very quickly. But it's not very public, and not a lot of people know his IGN. And it's actually semi-common. There's other people on the server that have Psycho as like an IGN.
Yeah, it's a pretty common name.
Exactly. So not a lot of people know exactly who he is yet, or you know, anything else like that. And so he gets banned from the server, and he tells only a few select people. He tells me. He tells the Danish guy. Did he tell you, Eclipse? Remind me.
He told me first.
Okay, so you, me, and Danish were the only three. No, Danish didn't know. That's right. It was you and me.
Yeah, I had to tell Danish.
You and me, yeah, you and me knew. Okay, so we were the only two who knew. Psycho did not want to panic anyone by essentially having like a brand new fledgling nation have no king at the helm. He didn't want people to like go into a panic about it. So what he did was he said, all right, keep it a secret that I'm banned. I'll be in the Discords every day with y'all and everything else. And it's only a temporary ban. He was banned for like a month. But what ended up happening was he claimed he did not X-ray, but he probably X-rayed, especially looking at his stashes of gold later. But either way, he claimed, and when he got caught, he immediately just said he was X-raying, so he'd only get banned for a month, so that way he wasn't gone that long. And so he got banned for a month.
That makes no sense, though. Think about that, guys. Like, really think about that. Let me just fucking be guilty to something I didn't do. If he truly didn't X-ray, be like, no, I'm not fucking X-raying, and send his logs. People, dude, it's easy.
I believe he X-rayed. I absolutely believe he X-rayed.
Yeah, bro. But just the fact that he was like he did that, it was just led me to believe like he was definitely hacking or X-raying.
Yeah, definitely.
But okay, so anyway, after he X-rays and all that other stuff, he gets banned for X-raying. Whether or not he did it is, neither here nor there, but he probably did. That being said, he gets banned, but he stays in the Discord. He still directs a lot of things that are going on with his city. He, directs the people who are in his claim, which he does run a claim and everything else. But he is banned for, about a month. And we were supposed to keep this secret from the rest of Artaine because, he just didn't want people to know that there wasn't a king. Yeah, for stability. And the problem with that was he had to have a coronation soon because the new nation needed to be, coronated. We needed to have a king.
Yeah.
And so he actually came up with an elaborate plan to have himself in VC, but someone else. Eclipse came up with most of the plan, but he enacted a plan to have someone else in his stead, who was one of his friends, take the crown and like wear his skin and be coronated because no one knew what his IGN was. And so we planned a whole coronation. We had it at the church in Lactopolis. It was like a whole thing. Blake was there. Again, a bunch of different people came from a bunch of different countries. It was like a big coronation. And we held an entire coronation where Psycho was speaking in the Discord, but his friend Haven was actually like in his skin and was acting like him the entire time. And it was really hilarious, honestly, because I was standing there as like security. There's all these pictures taken, like people were taking videos. And we're just like faking the coronation with him being there. It was one of the most hilarious things I've ever been part of.
I think Blake was there, no?
Yeah, that's what I said. Blake was there. Blake was invited. A bunch of different people came. Yeah. So everyone. I
invited everyone who went there.
Not only was Blake there, but also the leaders of Quinthos was there. It was rare because they did not like each other. So
I managed to like fix I was like the third wheel, like holding those two together and brought them to the
yeah, no, exactly. And so that happened. Psycho, he was coronated, but not actually him. And then like a week later, he finally got unbanned, so he was able to like start doing stuff again. And that's when the problems we started talking about started, where he started really, fucking around. Like
definitely
for the first month of Artaine, things were actually okay because while he wasn't in game, he didn't bother fucking with Las Vidas or like any of the other claims. But as soon as he was back in game is when he started his tirade. But anyway, Eclipse, I think you have some more information about the other side of this that's even more hilarious because like there's some details I definitely am leaving out.
So basically, he told me, and I thought he was joking, and then he scared the shit out of me. He's like, Eclipse, I have a big brain idea. Coronation. Beautiful. Let's bring everyone together, make it happen. And then he made me like I talked with everyone, and I got like Blake, I got Quintos, I got Carter, Mystic. I brought them all to the coronation, and I brought some other people, I think, from Catholic and whatnot, and our own citizens and whatnot came. But I brought them, and then he's like, so about being banned though, how am I gonna do this? And I'm like, right, you're banned. And then he was like, what do we do? Because I want this to happen and whatnot. And then I'm like, okay, how about you can get Party Bro or someone to dress up in your skin, and we'll just give you the crown, and then that player can just bury it in the vault that we had, and then when you get online, I'll just give it to you. And he's like, fantastic idea. The issue with that was he didn't choose anyone in our government because he didn't tell anyone in our government, me and Jade, but I was the one talking on the mantle, and Jade was doing some. I totally forgot. No, you were the guard. You were the guard guarding him on the mantle when he was getting crowned. So we couldn't pretend to be him. So he called his friend. I was in VC and I could hear the phone ring. He's like, dude, can you hop on a Minecraft server and pretend to be me for like 30 minutes? His friend logs on for the first time in Stoneworks with the skin, and then this new guy, he hadn't played Stoneworks before. He comes in, we give him a crown, and then the coronation happens and whatnot. Everything is fine. No one knows. And then the coronation ends, and then he gives me, Haven is the person playing as Psycho, gave me like the crown and all the stuff I gave him, and then I buried it in the vault, and then he logged off permanently after that. He didn't hop on after that again, and then that was the mission complete.
He did once later eventually, but like not for a very long time. Because he had to hold some money for Psycho too.
Yeah.
There were some of us in the VC who didn't know this. So like I didn't know that he was banned, and either, and like I know a couple of us didn't know, right? So when we joined VC, we're like, oh, when is coronation happening? And then we hear Psycho's banned, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah, we called it. Eclipse and I called it emergency Artaine meeting for all the cabinet. We're like, okay, listen, guys, emergency Artaine meeting for all of the oligarchs. We all met, and Eclipse and I go, okay, Psycho is banned. And everyone's like, what the fuck? And it's like, all right, we have a plan. This is what we're going to do. This happened a while ago. He just ordered us not to tell you. This is what's happening. And then we just, literally the day of, like an hour before the coronation, everyone found out from Artaine. And that's how we rolled with it.
Yeah, and we just, like, in VC, I'm just sitting there like, he's not even there.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was one of the funniest things.
It was very funny.
It was definitely funny. But that being said, we definitely mentioned someone during this talk that I think, Eclipse, you might want to talk about a little more, because he definitely caused you a lot more heartache than he caused anyone else. Though he was an asshole, and that's the Danish guy. If you want to, talk about him,
the Danish guy. So basically, while Jade and Ember were constantly being harassed by Willie and his people, I had to deal with, besides with Las Vidas, I had to deal with my own internal politics, which was Lactopolis. Lactopolis originally was a religious holy grounds. It was the holy land of all of Adramus. That was the plan. And we had Dairyism, which was a very religion basically about cows, milk, and whatnot. And we established where I was the king, the main leader, and Danish was the pope. So he would be the pope and whatnot. And Tomats was not involved in Dairyism whatsoever. He was Dairyism, like he was in the religion, but he wasn't any high position. He was just a province leader. But with the Danish guy and me, we were fine. I didn't have any issues with him. There were some things here and there we didn't get along, but sometimes you just don't get along with people. People disagree on stuff. It happens all the time. When issues started to arise was when certain calls were being made where he would spend some money sometimes over things which was stupidly expensive, and he'd plan these big things without giving me any help or any thing. He wanted a massive cathedral for himself with his name. His name was in the lore was like think Theodore or something. He wanted a big, massive cathedral, and I made it under construction, and it never finished to this day. It is gone. Its remnants of it being made were there for many months. They were recently taken down, I'd say 4 months ago. They were taken down for the final time. And during that time, though, when more issues and cracks started to appear, it wasn't too bad until when the coronation happened. Psycho realized that he wanted a capital built because now that he was king, he needed a place to stay. And he would force Ember and Jade to build Aragatha, or it was a bunch
Mostly
of names.
Ember and his other people.
I
Yeah, and his
still have
other
a
people.
build on my my laptop actually.
It was called
of the Argothan
Aberration
Castle.
and Agar.
Yeah, no, it was called
Yeah.
Aragatha at first, and then it was forced to be changed to
Yeah.
Aberration.
I thought it was
Yeah.
Agartha.
Yeah,
It was Agartha.
Agartha, my bad.
And then he got in
This
trouble.
build-
It sounded like Aragatha, so then
Yeah.
he had to change it to
I think we have a visitor in our window. So.
Aberration. It scales.
Oh my god, you fat fuck. I'm surprised you didn't take up all of the fucking window.
Sub, I want to let you know this build looks like the blockiest fucking castle ever. Like it's terrible.
Yeah,
it's not
it's
even
really
a
bad.
good
Oh,
castle.
I remember. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But besides going the point and going more into that, basically, he was focused on that, and I tried to help as best as I could, but I was busy building Lactopolis. It was going to be this great medieval city and whatnot, but then I re-looked at the schematics of the build plan, and I hated it. I slept on it, and I did not like it, so I destroyed everything. I destroyed all the buildings, and I started making a port city and whatnot. Danish was not happy about this decision. He claimed that it wasn't what the theme was going for, and it wouldn't work well. So then I told him, look, this is basically my city. You are the Pope in it. I can build it however I'd like, and I love it this way, and a lot of people do. Valorum loved it especially. They made good, they contacted me and was like, great city, I love the progress, keep up the good work. And then Danish and Psycho had a brawl. I don't know any information about it, but it basically caused a heated situation between me, Psycho, and Danish. We were all screaming at each other basically in a group chat, and I tried to calm everyone down, but it just kept getting more violent and whatnot. And Danish basically like rage quit. He basically decided to, and before I say it, Lactopolis was the very first claim in all of Adramas, the very first. He decided to delete the claim and steal all the money and all the items in the claim and left the server, blocked me, Psycho, everyone, and blocked all communication. I couldn't find him or contact him again.
It was a straight up server tragedy.
I made the
You guys are missing the most
It-
important
it-
part. You guys are completely missing the most important part.
What?
I
What's
literally
that?
so pretty much when I became like the official or like that leading figure of
Oh, the
Gertech.
Viceroy.
No, fuck the Viceroy.
Oh no, when you were the leader.
Yeah,
of
when I was leader of Gertech officially, I didn't know who the leader of Artaine was. I thought it was the Danish guy because he was doing all of his fucking work for
Oh yeah, when
Psycho
you
while
were
he was
first
banned.
made leader.
Yeah, and Danish put me under this impression that he was. So, like he was like one day telling me, like not even one day, all the time he was like, "Oh, we don't have a nation claim yet. We don't have a nation claim. We don't have a nation claim." And I was like, "You know what? Like, how short are you?" He's like, I only have 20K. We need 30K." And I was like, "All right, since you're like the leader, I'll give you the rest of the money. You're my vassal. I'll help you guys out. Like that's what we're here for."
Oh yeah.
And he
Remember
bought
that,
the
right.
fucking
yeah.
nation claim behind Psycho's back. So I guess he was gonna try and like usurp the fucking nation or something from Psycho. I have no idea. I don't know what his plan was. And then I fucking found out that he lied to me. I crashed the fuck out. I threatened his ass for war and shit. And
That's what the conversation was with me and Psycho. He was like, we were all three yelling, like they were yelling at each other, and Psycho was like, "What have you done? You just angered our like main leaders and rulers." And Danish was like, "It's not my fault. You should have specified." It was this whole thing, and it was a back and forth thing. And I told everyone to like shut up. They didn't listen to me, except except they directed their anger towards me. And when they deleted the claim, they actually deleted the nation claim because Lactopolis was the quote unquote capital at the time
Yeah.
before they changed it when the construction was finished. So not only did he delete $50,000 from the nation claim with the $10,000 so that's 60K just in the claim itself, but there was over like $100,000 in the claim and it was all gone.
I made a ticket, and everyone basically told me, "I'm sorry, I have a conflict of interest. I'm sorry, I can't help. I can't do anything to help you." And I'm just like, the claim got deleted because of a petty person. Why can you not give us this? Because we can show you proof that he stole all these items. But then they just they pushed me around until they just closed the ticket altogether.
No, they just didn't know what to do because one of the people said it was a conflict of interest because they're like, I'm friends with Danish, so I can't really do anything. And then another person was like, oh, well, I'll take care of this. But then they just kind of let it sit by the wayside and they never did. And yeah, that's what happened.
I know, but after all that shit went down, I was so fucking mad. So
what's up on the ceiling, Subterra?
Oh shit, I didn't even realize.
No worries.
But I don't know, I was so fucking mad at the bullshit. And when he left, I was like, there's no way this motherfucker is just gonna dip and just get away with this. So I just kept tracks on his ass. I just kept tabs on him. And then not a couple months ago, maybe about 2 months ago now, he I was in Sarinthia, right? Because I was talking to my friend Bogey, who's the leader of Sarinthia now, and he pretty much, I was walking around, and then I fucking walked into a claim owned by the Danish guy, and I'm like, no fucking way. So I fucking DM Bogey, I told him the whole situation, I was like, I need my fucking money back, blah blah blah. And it was this whole fucking shit show, and they were like, oh, we're not gonna pay you, blah blah blah. It was a long time ago, and I wasn't having it. I was like, no, I'm getting my fucking money. You don't do me dirty and get away with it. I always get my lick back. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You can be Stony. I'll get my fucking lick back one way or another. All we gotta say is, I got my money, guys. That's all we got. I got my money.
Yeah, very true, very true.
I mean, actually, I got threatened and harassed. And
this is something hilarious too, because I just want to point out, it's not like you got your money like soon or anything either. This is way later, and you still managed to get the money. It was months, maybe close to a year later, and you still managed to.
Oh yeah, it was 6-7 months later. I don't ever forget shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, just to kind of end the story of him deleting the claim, basically, I was very upset and mad. So I contacted the admins, and they said they could give me $50,000 so I can make the not 50K, $10,000 so I can make the claim. So I was able to remake Lactopolis. So I made Lactopolis again, and it was there, and it was really small, and I couldn't claim everything because they didn't give me back my money. Danish took over $100,000, and all the items he stole. He went in the vault, stole most of the items, and they with Jade and Ember, it was a conflict of interest. They wouldn't. In the end, I never got any of my stuff back. And to this day, if you're watching this, Danish, you still owe me over $100,000. I will get that money back eventually. But besides the point is, I was struggling. We were struggling really bad at that point, and I think we all got into a VC and we're like, what do we do now? And I think that VC talked near the end of Artaine as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems as though behind us we have quite an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a lot of people running around. Should we address that before we talk about the last little leg of this? Because, yeah.
Actually, the next thing I want to do is I want to take a break and talk about our sponsors.
Oh, absolutely.
So This episode is being sponsored by Mochiko once again. We love Mochiko. Valkyria on top. Get everything you fucking need that you may possibly ever need at Mochiko. We will have it. If we don't have it, let me know. I'll get it for you. We will always be here for you guys. Our second sponsor is going to be Crimson Tide Brewery. Everyone, you gotta get your brews. You want them fast. You want them now. You want them for cheap. This is the person to talk to right here, Ember.
Thank you.
So
Australis exclusive brews.
On God. That's what we need. This is truly what we need. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Oracle, Sventisi Times, the Garlic. But yeah, for sponsors today, that's gonna be it. Keeping it short and sweet.
Awesome.
Honestly, sometimes
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe I ran a tiny little brewery in Rathnear and now I'm running a big company. It's kind of wild.
But you know, that's what happens. You keep expanding your shit and you start knowing more.
Put in the work, you get that. You get the time.
I definitely think talking about some other history about the provinces will be really cool later. But anyway, that being said, I think we should maybe segue into talking about the end of Artaine and how it all came about.
Yeah.
So after Artaine had been around, we had been around 3 months. That was, I believe, just about the life of our experiment in the country.
3 months. Yeah.
About 3 months. And so at the end of the 3 months that we were, everything that was happening, we didn't really see the end coming, but it was starting to. So the rest of our oligarchical council had... Hello, Fox.
What the fuck?
Someone's intruding.
There's a lot of people intruding.
We'll be back after this break. Give us just.
We'll be right back.
Can you pause that real quick, Sub, and can you maybe go ask them in my Discord to not?
All right, guys. Sorry about that. We had a little intrusion, but now we're back.
All right.
So who was saying what? Yeah, I think you were talking, Jay.
Yeah. I was talking about the eventual collapse. So towards the end of our 3-month run as this country, a few things happened. So first, the issue with Danish guy broke out, and as a result, Danish ended up resigning from the government. From there, the rest of us in the Artainian government decided that we wanted to make peace with Las Vides and make whatever rivalry we had us be an actual, in-lore rivalry. So we weren't actually angry at each other, everything like that. And so we all decided together, even with Psycho present, that we were going to make peace with Las Vides. Have a whole treaty, sign a deal, basically we're not going to be enemies anymore. We're not going to be hostile. No more of this. So we made the agreement with Las Vides. A day after we made the agreement with Las Vides, Psycho once again breaks it with Party Bro and decides to make a gigantic fucking oil spill in the ocean next to them. And that was the last straw for Las Vides and everything that was going on. So with the oil spill, they're like, we cannot be friends unless, Psycho's not in your government. We wish you the best. We're going to completely cut off from you. So at that point, Gertek was starting to become more active in the Adramas scene, and Subterra, you were the then official leader of Gertek. You were then made the official leader, and everything else was going on. And so at that point, we decided that we were going to... How do I explain it? We decided that we were going to move forward with, the peace and all that other stuff and just try to develop our own countries. Well, after this oil spill happened and Las Vides declared this whole war thing, it created a crisis. It created a whole thing where three members of the oligarchy wanted to stop, wanted war with Las Vides, legitimate war with Las Vides, and the rest did not. And the problem is by this point, Las Vides was actually also a Gertek vassal, and you guys wouldn't have let us fight either. And so Psycho and Party Bro and Professional, they were considering trying to rebel against everything else and start a war against Las Vides. And that caused us to call an emergency meeting where essentially we're like, all right, everyone in Artaine, meet up. Let's talk about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what our future is. Subterra at that point, about a week earlier, had plans to be made the viceroy, so that way he could better control affairs in Artaine because things were getting out of hand with Psycho constantly circumventing the rest of the council. But before Subterra could even officially become viceroy of Artaine, we had this meeting. And in this meeting, basically everyone in Artaine was like, we are tired of this. We are tired of making decisions, constantly doing this, and every single time we make a decision as a group, having Psycho break the decision and not make it with us and do something else. And so we started arguing about what to do to change our government. And we had a 3 or 4 hour long VC about what the hell to do about this. And what's funny about this VC is Ember and I were actually, we had to essentially call into this meeting because we were at a rehearsal for an important ensemble in real life. And so because we were at this rehearsal, we were like listening in the background, trying to participate whenever we could. But it was this massive meeting where we all came to this decision of, well, we're all tired of this. We have no idea what to do from here on out. What do we do? So the end goal was we ended up all voting to dissolve Artaine.
Yep.
And what ended up happening at that time was Eclipse and I had been talking before that and talking about the possibility of, if Artaine were to collapse or dissolve, where would we go? And at this point, I wanted my province to join Gurtek, and Eclipse at first said that he wanted his province to join Gurtek too.
Yeah.
But something would change that eventually, but we'll get there.
I'll go back to the end of that.
Yeah. But anyway, so we said we were going to join Gurtek and everything else, but then we go into the meeting, and we have the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, we decide that Artaine's getting dissolved.
Yep.
Immediately afterwards, I make the deal with Subterra and sign the paperwork, and I declare that my province is now part of the Gurtek Horde. Eclipse, though, surprises the rest of us by withdrawing that and saying that he did not want to join the Gurtek Horde and instead wanted to become an independent nation. And do you want to explain a little bit about why you did that, Eclipse?
So, to briefly summarize a little bit, like backtracking a little, but during the meeting, Psycho basically gave us options, and he's like, all right, so we want to change our government, so why not we just abolish the oligarchy? What if we become a monarchy and you guys can be my like ministers and whatnot, or like on a small council and I'm the supreme leader? He basically we didn't want that, so we said no. And then he's like, you gotta do it. I am your king right now, so we're gonna do it. And me and Jade were like, if that's the way you're gonna do, I want out. And we all basically were like, all right, Artaine is done. Let's all just leave. And we all withdrawn from Artaine. And like me and Jade were talking earlier, and I'm like, if Artaine would collapse, what would we do? Because I own Lactopolis, a small province to the south. Uzeni was above me, and then it was a long strip of Aberration, and then Astralis and whatnot at the top. And I'm like, I am not sure what I want to do. And Jade was like, I'm going with Gurtek. And I'm like, I'll probably join you and whatnot. And that was the initial plan.
I had strong ties with Gurtek, by the way.
Yeah.
I had like Kartek imagery. I, was from the original Kartek Fjellheim back in Rathmir. So that's why I was going with Gurtek. We ended up having strong ties. But for the record, and to be very clear, I never wanted Artaine to collapse. I wanted to stay with Artaine until the end. And this is important because I was accused by Psycho and others of orchestrating this collapse just so I could join Gurtek. This was never the case, and I always had every intention of keeping Artaine alive. I did not want to join Gurtek except for a very last possibility because I knew them, and I was friends with a lot of the people there. Anyway, continue, Eclipse. My bad.
Yeah, no, you're all good. It's well said. Like, none of us, we all wanted the best for Artaine. It just couldn't go that way.
But in all honesty, being told basically behind my back that he wanted to take my position does not give me a good idea of him as a leader.
We'll address that too. We'll address some more of Psycho's things, but let's let Eclipse finish this part.
Yeah, so basically, the initial plan was, I was going to join Gurtek. And then I talked with some, like, so as a province, what would I do? And he's like, so basically, you do this, and one thing that caught my attention was offerings. It was basically like a tax system. I don't know who implemented that or whatnot. And at the time, I was broke as hell because a little bit before, someone deleted the nation claim and I lost all my money. So I couldn't afford it. And I was telling Sub, like, that might be an issue for me. Is there a way we could work something about it? And he's like, I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on that. And then I talked with Psycho after the whole thing split up. I'm like, I'm going to join Gurtek. I'm not sure what you want to do with Aberration. May the best of luck go to you. It was like, I don't know if it was really an honor working with you, but have like a good time left. And then he's like, dude, don't do that. And he basically made up all these white lies about Subterra, all of Gurtek, and basically made you look like such terrible people that I would make more of my life would be a living hell being under you guys. And he specifically used the tax and the offering type thing as a main system, and it convinced me. At that time, albeit I was stupid, I shouldn't have like a lot of issues if I did join, might not have been happened. But in the end, I decided to back out because I was like they were accused of so much. Like, I didn't want to be a part of that, and I didn't want to suffer through that. So I said, no, I'm not gonna join them. But I didn't want to stay with Artaine either. So I basically talked with the northern province, known as Uzeni, with Tomats. Great friends. We were in Bardonia and Rathnir, known each other for many years. And then we're like, dude, let's form a new nation. And he's like, I'd be down. But what do you want to do? How are we going to do this? And I'm like, how about we merge our provinces and form the kingdom of whatever, and it'd be a diarchy ruled by both of us. And in the end, it formed the kingdom of Paraíso. And at that time, yeah, it's fine. So basically, we formed that, and Subterra. We a lot of stuff happened, but in different podcasts, you can kind of get glimpses and pieces of what kind of happened after that and in between. Especially during the Quintos one, it was very interesting hearing that again. But yeah, if you want to go back into another topic, going back into why Psycho was very interesting person.
Yeah, so we'll talk about some of Psycho's grievances, and then after that, I want to touch on the little bit of the aftermath, because believe it or not, Psycho did not just leave at the end of this. What was his province actually joined with me. He joined with Astrellis and joined the rest of Gertek, but was quickly forced out due to some other things. But anyway, grievances about Psycho. One of the first things in like the first month and a half that Psycho did to Ember was immediately try to replace Ember with someone else without bothering to check with anyone else whether or not Ember was doing their job. They just believed that they weren't and like didn't consult anyone. Ember was feverishly doing their job, collecting like all the resources that we needed to get the nation going. But that didn't matter to Psycho. He just wanted to remove Ember. And it took the entire oligarchical council essentially to sit Psycho down and basically be like, listen, Ember's doing their job. You can't just kick them out for no reason. For him to finally yield and apologize to Ember.
This is the guy. The guy that previously had my job, his name was Professional Idiot. He got so scared about the job when it was... The job is gather supplies, whether it be wood, whatever it is, gather it in the amount and give and deliver it, right? He quit the job because he was freaking out about it. I got the job. I did it better. He got extremely upset at me and then said some choice words to me about wanting the job back.
Despite the fact that he gave it up because he was intimidated by the scope of the job in the first place. And Ember was doing the job brilliantly, I might add. They were literally just diligently collecting materials for everyone.
Yeah.
That's all they did. Because Brewing was down at the time, and so they weren't able to open their... Yeah, exactly. Because Brewing was down at the time, and so they weren't able to open Crimson Tide yet, because we had no brews. And so they just were grinding. They essentially were in charge of all the resource allocation of the country. And Psycho just completely ignored what they were doing for the country, and was very disrespectful about wanting to remove them. In addition to that, he, again, always stepped on toes. He was always going around to, essentially going around the council, going against the council's decisions and making decisions on his own. Yeah. And that's what happened with him. But then, yeah, at the very end, Psycho, he joined with me. He ended up joining with my province and going with Gertek, and this is when he changed his city's name from Agartha to Aberration. And then he started continuously making trouble. He's still... San Sfentisimo at this time was breaking off of Las Vidas, and he was still making trouble with the people from San Sfentisimo. He was constantly trying to, antagonize them and other stuff like that, to the point where Subterra, actually, I think you remember this, you eventually were like, listen, if you don't stop, you're going to be banned. And he didn't stop. And so you basically chased him out of the land, him and all those people, and said, yeah, if you don't go, this is the thing. And so it all actually came to a head in an incident where you, your sister, and several other people came over to his claim to look at the castle. And while you were looking at the castle, while everyone was, inspecting it, Party Bro essentially turned around and attacked your sister out for no reason, because he thought that he was going to be attacked wrongly, and so he wanted to attack first.
Yep.
And so he attacked Aiden and started an entire fight where the people of Gertek slaughtered them, and that essentially pushed the rest of them out. That was when they finally left my province, gave me control of that area, and some more stuff would happen to it from there. But that was the final fall of the King of Artaine from the land.
Yeah.
Some people don't know that in Rathnir I warred an entire nation because their leader was creepy to my sister one time.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
Yeah.
Eclipse, you were saying.
I can explain more on that. Basically, Paraíso basically was formed and whatnot, and I made decent relationships, especially with Quintos. Very wonderful people down there, especially Carter and them, Dorson, Mystic, Atomic, Stingy. They were beautiful people. But
Beautiful people.
beautiful.
while I was making those relationships, Party Bro was in my DMs. She's like, dude, um, I'm scared right now, and he sent images of a bunch of Kurtek people, like a bunch. They were at the castle at Aberration. I'm like, so what's this? And he's like, they're raiding us, dude. They're raiding us. Please pull up. Please pull up. I'm like, why? What? Why is the need? And he's like, I'll explain later. Just pull up. And I bring Tomats and like a couple Brazilians with me, and then we go over and we're like, what's up? What's going on? And then by the time I get there, basically Party Bo basically killed Aiden, and then everyone died, and I don't blame myself for dying. I was killed too, because I don't blame if Sub or if they were mistaken, whatnot. But I was killed in the bloodshed in the crossfire. I don't mind, honestly. Should have really not pulling up, but
Keep Invis
it
on,
is
it's
what
fine.
it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fine. So I didn't like lose anything. But basically, after that, they left. So Party, Psycho, Professional, they left. And I don't know if I've told you this before, but they actually tried to um, join me, but somewhere else. They tried to become a vassal of Paraíso and Centaura down
Yeah,
south.
you mentioned this of me. You mentioned this to me.
Huh.
Basically, he squatted on their land. It was open. It was just Iceland over there. Basically, it was just ice over there. There was nothing over there but just winter hell.
Oh, and like
And
the
he basically,
sea?
yeah, he basically formed this winter wonderland castle over there. It's gone now, but basically, it was his castle, and he kept it a secret from me and everyone. And he showed me. He's like, dude, just give me a chance. You don't even have to put me like really as your government. I'll be a vassal of you. I'm scared of Centaura, about them warring me. I have bad relationships. I'm like, what's going on? What's up? And basically, he wants to become a vassal of me. I'm like, I'm not doing it, dude. I'll basically just kill myself, because Centaura is going to war me if I do that. And I rejected the offer. And Psycho basically then got really pissed. And I think at the end he did get warred by Centaura. I literally stopped contact at all with him after that, and all of them, and didn't talk to them for many months. So that, yeah, it was. I think they actually did get warred, because I checked recently. Any trace of that civilization is gone, at all. So it's all gone, and they tried again and they failed again. And at that point, I think they officially quit the server. But as many of you know, one of them is back, Party Bro, and
Yeah.
he is one of my citizens. He is a province leader. We've talked about it. We've all
He's also a
discussed
dickhead.
about it, and we basically just kind of made up. It's in the past. We can just look back on it. Some people have opinions of other people. It's fine. As of now, I think we should just look back on it and just make the memories.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be stuck on this one thing over many months.
Yeah.
It'll just bring people down. We should definitely just move on. But I
No,
think we've already done
definitely.
that.
I've moved on. The only grievance I ever had with Psycho is the fact that when he was leaving, he made it personal against me. He blamed me
Yeah.
for the fall of Artaine and everything else, and I have him quoted saying, from to Eclipse and to other people, that he wanted to, and I quote, take my province from me in a war, just so he could take it and burn it completely to the ground and
Yep.
raise it.
Damn.
And that upset me. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't talked with Psycho since. I'd rather not even want to talk to him anymore. I'm kind of done and tired with that whole
Yeah.
thing. Honestly, I don't even like to remember Artaine. It was a past that I really want to forget. Lots of bad memories, especially for me and my foundation on Lactopolis and what is now known as Esperanza. It was a very rough start, and if you want to actually get into the little, we don't have to go too much because we don't want to make this episode too long, but we can kind of give a little sneak peek on what happened after Artane fully collapsed, and y'all, like, what happened after,
oh
basically.
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So from my perspective, After Artaine collapsed, we joined the Gurtek Horde, and for a very long time, we started flourishing under the Gurtek Horde. Now, the Gurtek Horde, it started having its own issues, and that's an episode for another day. This is a whole nother talk. But the gist of it is, Blake came back, tried to lead the nation, and in a fit of rage due to a couple other things, he ended up just deleting the Discord. And after deleting the Discord, the entire rest of the Gurtek country, well, we didn't want our Discord to be deleted, and we didn't want to follow Blake either. So we just joined another Discord that was made by Sub, and as a result, we changed the name of Gurtek to the Kingdom of Maravilla, and functionally, pretty much nothing changed. I stayed, or my province stayed a province of the then country of Maravilla, and then became a province underneath Subterra, who was the then leader. He actually teamed up with Jeffy J for a while, became dual leaders. I became the hand of Maravilla, and from there, Maravilla eventually would join the USA. The rest is history. So a lot of cool stuff happened for us. We flourished under Maravilla. Honestly, we had a really great time, and all the things that were being told to Eclipse, that Maravilla is oppressive or Gurtek's oppressive to live under, and all that other stuff, absolutely untrue. We had we had an amazing time under them. They protected us. They made things stable. It was a really good and really solid time. And then what about you, Eclipse? What happened for your province?
I had like the exact opposite of what you just said.
Damn.
Yeah.
So basically, when I first, when I basically became independent and whatnot, formed Paraíso and whatnot, I don't blame Sub for this, but we had bad relationships, especially between me and Sub. I think
I was
things
still
got
upset.
heated a lot. He wanted me to join him. I didn't join him. It got heated many times, and I apologize for that. It was very rude and disrespectful of me.
It's politics.
Yeah, it's politics. So
plus, you were fed
basically, yeah, basically, Paraíso has been through rough, very rough. We lost the claim like so many times, but I'll go into that a little bit more later. But basically, from its founding and issues with Gurtek/Maravilla, that was during kind of their transition. I had reached out with Carter, and we were great friends in the Artaine days. He was the first person I ever talked to in diplomacy. Amazing relationships with Carter. I met Thorson, Atomic, Stingy Cup, Mystic. Very amazing people over there. I love the community. And he was like, dude, I am talking with New Aston, or what was Nucifera and Nebula. We're doing this merging into like this coalition thing. You want to join in? And I'm like, sure, I'd be down. And we joined Quintos, and that's when I think the near like war almost happened, like the South versus the North between Gurtek and Quintos, this whole big thing. That's for like another episode for another time. It was already covered pretty much in
also take a Dramas history class with the University of Maravilla.
Yeah. You can do that too if you want to learn more stuff. But from that, Zamots came in more in the Quintus podcast. It talks more in depth about it. But to skim it over, basically, Paraíso left, and Zamots took like all over what now is Zamots took like all over what normal Zamots is now. Their borders, they took a lot of land. Everything what Quintos was literally just Subterra. That was left, and even that was annexed by Zamots before given to the quote unquote successor state of the Quinti Empire, which is Kintaris. So basically, it was rough, but that time when we left Quintos, something amazing happened. The most beautiful thing that has ever happened, and is the population met Brazilians. We Paraísoans met the Brazilians, and these people are one of the greatest people in the entire world. They literally helped so much. The population skyrocketed. They've done so much for Paraíso, and the Brazilians don't get enough credit for what they've done. They've done an amazing job. Thank you, Sam, Tomats, all of you.
Shout out to the Brazilians.
Musical job. Thank you all.
Tomats, you were also an awesome person to know in Artaine. Just saying. Little shout out, Tomats here.
Oh God.
But basically, population increased. Things were going really well, and then school started back up. It was about August, September, and then population died, and then basically Tomats got in discussion with Clumsy Cappy. He was a NZ, right, from Zamots. Ended up, we signed a deal, which was we would stay under Zamots. They would help us with our population because it was dying in our culture, and we were fine with that. But a lot of issues happened, and Zamots is like another episode for another time. A lot of things happened, issues. USA formed, and in the end, Paraiso withdrew from the Zamots Union and became the 10th, ninth state, whatever. It's kind of complicated with the Shirokinese thing. That's another episode for another time. But basically, it was really rough. I'm glad that we could skim it over, and I made good relationships, made up with the people that we had issues with.
Definitely. And that's honestly, that's the story of Artaine. And honestly, personally, I just have one little thing to add here that came out of it. When we, left Artaine, when we started in Artaine, we started in Dragathon Artaine. We were the smallest province of all of Artaine. We were just in the corner, in the far east. We had a couple small cities. But under Gurtek, when I say we flourished, I mean we flourished. Because our province, it went from being the smallest province in all of our country to one of the third largest provinces in Maravi. It's one of the top 3 largest provinces in our whole state. And managed to expand rapidly in size and everything else thanks to everything that has happened with Gurtek. And I'm very, very grateful for Gurtek and Maravia and the part that, I've been able to play with them. It's definitely been an honor, and it's been a lot of fun.
Dude, we've been honored to have you guys.
It allowed me a stable place to have a brewery where I know it won't disappear. In which case, and that allows me to make cheap brews for everyone, including Maravia.
Yeah. So it's really great. That's the overall history of Artaine. That's how it came to be, how it fell, all in the span of 3 months, and what happened to its successor state. We do still fondly remember some things about it. I have a little factory in my province that is it has 2 smokestacks on it to remember the industrial legacy of Artaine. But other than that, for the most part, most of Artaine's remnants have continued to evolve under Paraiso and Estrellas.
Yeah, I can quickly just briefly skim over that if you want.
Oh, if you want to, sure. I also want to mention before that, though, the last little bit about Estrellas is that the city of Aberration, which did once belong to Psycho, the once capital of Artaine, it eventually, due to certain land deals and other things, was ceded to San Sfentisimo in a land deal. San Sfentisimo owns the province, and very soon they may be buying the map paint about that province due to some political things going on. But they've administered that city, and they have since turned that area into what they call South Sfentisimo. It is an absolutely beautiful area of buildings and nature. It's gorgeous. It has amazing statues, architecture.
Yeah.
So that is currently the legacy of what was the capital of Artaine. It is currently standing as a very beautiful part of the province of San Sfentisimo. Anyway, go ahead if you want to touch on anything else, Eclipse, before we go ahead and wrap this thing up.
As Jade quickly had stated that Artaine has come back. It is back, not as a state, but as a tiny province in my state. And the leader is Party Bro, as we've said. But I took a hold on that, and I basically had a one-on-one chat with Party Bro, and I told him, I set the rules, no doing this, no doing that. Follow basically my orders, and we basically plan on this beautiful medieval city in the south, and hopefully maybe can mend the terrible history of Artaine to maybe have something great at last.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Ember, you got anything to say?
That'll do it.
Even though Artaine may have been a walking hellhole government-wise, for the citizens we did have, it was very calm and easy for them. They didn't really deal with much. That's the thing. Like, it was only stressful for the government because we were falling apart at the seams because none of us could agree. We had insubordination.
Yeah.
However, I can say for a citizen point of view, they didn't notice anything happen.
Yeah, if you were to ask our citizen Gothic Engine, he would tell you that from his point of view, we were just changing banners every couple months. And he's like, again? All right, as long as everything goes well for us. And that's just kind of how it ended up going. So overall, it's, the legacy of Artaine is still alive in some ways, and I do actually have Artaine flags in my own home just for the memory.
I'm happy to have gone through it. It may help me grow as a politician, to be honest. Like without that, I would be unprepared for the current NA right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Without that experience, I definitely would have been unprepared for the National Assembly service I do with the United States.
That experience actually like granted me the ability to do diplomacy, and that was when I first met like all these amazing people on this continent, Carter, Subterra, all of them. Even reached over to Catholic and made some great relationships with other people too. Been very nice.
That's good. That's awesome to hear. So Artaine, shoulda, coulda, woulda. A lot of shit happened. It's a good part of USA and Andromeda's history, in my opinion. It was interesting. And I think the moral of the story is join Gertech. Listen, I'm always right. I'm always correct. Sorry, Eclipse.
The moral of the story is join Gertech.
Join Gertech, guys. Join Marvia.
Absolutely.
But that is going to do it for today. I want to thank all the guests here for coming out here so late at night, for recording this.
Thank you.
Of course, guys.
Thank you.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. And once again, if you're still watching this, you are retarded. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Until next time.
Good night. Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys.